Okay, guys, take two. Sorry about that. My computer froze. Well, my internet connection froze, and then my computer froze. Everything's been working fine up until now, and for whatever reason, it decided to act up. So, my apologies. I probably lost you. It's 8:18. Hopefully, there's nobody else after me. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and run with it. All right. So, my name is Maria. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself with my background and a little bit about me. So I'm not about labels. I don't like labels, but I'll go ahead and give you some of the things that I've trained in and what I've done in the past. I started actively on my journey, on my spiritual journey, in about 2009, 2010. I started with Reiki, and then I went on to being an angel intuitive practitioner. Went on to an Akashic healing modality called soul realignment, and then I started delving more into the psychic and mediumship work. I've been teaching, started teaching Reiki a little under a year now, so I've been delving into the teaching arena a little bit more so lately. This class is about a quick beginner's guide for the empath. Now, empath. I sometimes interchange that with clairsentience, but it's like it kind of overlaps, but at the same time it just depends on who you're talking to, and there's some differences and some similarities. But for the sake of this class, it's basically both for me, and I'm going to be referring to us as empaths. Okay, so oh, and let me go back, and I forgot to talk about my website. My website is Your Soul Perspective, www.yoursoulperspective.com. I am active on Instagram and on Facebook. So if you would like to reach out or have any questions, please feel free to PM me and or email me at maria@yoursoulperspective.com. I do readings online and via Zoom or Skype. I also will be working out of a brick and mortar in the middle of October. I'll be doing Reiki sessions and readings. So that's going to be new for me because I've been doing mostly on an online format. So yeah, excuse me. I'm a little bit shaken up by just the technical difficulties. And I'm IT, by the way, and this doesn't jive. So anyway, let me reset myself a little bit. All right, so a little confession. I did prepare for a class, but the class that I prepared for was for next week, not for this week. We got the two classes confused. So I do know the material, not as organized as I'd like it to be, so I'm going to go ahead and just hit it anyway. So I will definitely love your honest and brutal constructive criticism on this. So I'm going to be able to tell whether this is compare between one that I just did on the fly as opposed to one I prepared for. So I'm just going to put that out there right off the bat. So a guide to the new empath. There's a couple of things that that we as empaths want to know. Okay, well, first of all, you don't know that you're an empath right off the bat. You find out in hindsight because you've gone through so many of these mood swings that you wonder, and then you do research, and then you find out in hindsight this is what it is. And then the question is, well, how do I find out what's mine and what's not mine? And that's the key, is to know your energetic signature, to figure out what your baseline is, to figure out what is yours and what's not yours. Quickly, just right off the bat though, what you do is, this is just a quick tip, and then we'll get into more later. You take 3 deep breaths. That'll activate the connection to your guidance, to your higher self, to spirit, and then you ask the question: is this mine? Or is this mine? If it is, if you get a no, then you take another deep breath and you release that, and within 5 to 10 seconds that'll be gone. But the key here is discernment of what is yours and what is not yours. Okay, so before I get into any further, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of a little bit about me and what my journey was as when I was from start to where I got to the point where I figured out that I was an empath. So I grew up thinking I was bipolar. Okay, I was, as a kid, I would have these mood swings. I'd get depressed from one second to the next, get sad, angry, It was mostly like sad, not so good feelings. I wasn't happy a lot. I was a very, very moody kid. And one feeling that I would, or one emotion that I feel a lot would be anger. I was a very angry kid, okay? I would act, I mean, I was a quiet kid, and I was raised by my grandmother. I was given up for adoption by my biological mom at 3 months old. She raised me, it was my paternal grandmother. She raised me. She pretty much kept me in line. I was an honor student. But I grew up in a rough neighborhood. I was born and raised in Chicago, Humboldt Park area. For me growing up, I didn't know why, I couldn't understand why I was here, why I lived in such a violent place, why all this stuff went on in the world. It was local, it was on a global scale. I felt like this was hell, literally hell. I didn't know where heaven was, but what we lived in was hell. And I couldn't even imagine why people would bring kids into the world. So this was my thoughts as growing up as a kid. And I became angry, short-fused, and top of that, didn't understand why I would have these mood swings. I would go into places and feel icky and sick and just all around horrible. Then there would be times where I would swing into one extreme to the next with moods. So as time went on, I lived in this area. Excuse me. Okay. And living in this area, I would have to be on alert. I would have to be on alert always. I would be walking home from school. It was I lived in an area where there was a lot of gang activity, and so there would be shootings, and I would instinctively duck and go and hide in between cars so I wouldn't get hit. Ironically, though, deep down, I would wish I would have like suicidal tendencies. I would feel like I want to die, like I'd want to get hit by a bullet or get hit by a car so I can exit. I wouldn't want to, I didn't feel like I could commit suicide, but just because I thought that was like, it was cheating, but I wanted somebody to like just make that exit for me. And I know, and I'm no offense to anybody, this is just my story. This is how this started for me. It was pretty extreme growing up. And so this is how it was in my life. And I grew, this anger energy followed me into adulthood. I had this until like my late 20s, until my biological clock started ticking. Like when I was younger, I would never think to have kids. My thought was just to adopt, just so I can help other kids that came into this world, that were brought in without their consent, without them knowing what they were coming into. This was my thought back then. But I never thought that I would bring any kids into this world. But anyway, even though I had this anger energy about me, I had a short fuse. I did reckless things, meaning I put myself in situations just because I was angry all the time. And the me now, looking at the me back then, it was pretty crazy stuff. Even though I didn't partake in gangs. I was an honor student. My grandmother pretty much kept me on a leash, but I was very aggressive and violent. It wouldn't take much to tick me off and to get me going. Basically, I was ready on a drop of a dime to get physical, and I'm not proud of that, but that was just me back then. Okay, but when I got into my 20s, my biological clock started ticking. I thought of having kids. A shift happened because I still felt alone. I still felt like I didn't belong, but I wanted my own little unit. And so that unit was going to be my kids. And so at that point is when I thought, I have to change this pattern. I have to change this anger that I have inside me. And so I started digging and working on my healing and taking care of my emotions and taking control of my emotions. So this led me to do research, and I figured out that all those years I was feeling other people's anger, other people's aggression, other people's depression, other people's just not so nice feelings. And so I came to this realization, and this is what brought me to the practices that I've been doing. And this is in my late 20s. I'm 44 now. So it's a process, and it takes time, and it takes practice just be gentle with yourself and just make sure that you're, take it easy and know that it's not going to happen overnight. It's just a process where you have to keep consistency with it. Okay. So there's three aspects that you have to pay attention to. Now, there's many ways to do this. This is the way that I found this was the common denominator of all the research that I've done, of all the information that I've collected. So the first is just to kind of work on a baseline, where you're figuring out what your energy is, and that's through meditation. The first aspect is through meditation, like a 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute, however long you can take in the beginning. 5 minutes in the beginning, 10 minutes, then next week after that, 15 minutes next week after that. But what your intention is to connect with your higher self, to sit, do breath work, like just breathe in and do deep breath work. You don't even have to do counting, just a very basic breath work, connect and do with the intention of connecting with your higher self. So you're doing that and you're creating a baseline for yourself. So then when you're doing, what I recommend is doing this like 5 days a week, at least, just the majority of the week, majority of the time of the week. So there's going to be weeks where you're going to probably do 1 day, 2 day, but you have to try to aim for at least 5 days a week, just so you have the majority of that week and that practice put into that week. So, and when you got that down, you go ahead and you start incorporating energetic maintenance, or like energetic hygiene, so to speak, like cutting cords, cleansing your auric field, running energy, meaning you're calling up earth energy from the earth's core, going through your feet, all the way through your body, and out through your crown chakra, going all the way up to the universe, and then calling down source energy, coming through your chakra, through your body, all through your chakras, and out through your foot, out through your feet, whew, and into the core. Also incorporate grounding work. However you feel you can go ahead and put in any way, order, shape, or form you want. Just I'm not gonna tell you how to do it, but just make sure that you incorporate this. Deep breath work, obviously, as I've mentioned, and mindfulness. So mindfulness is something that you'll have to incorporate throughout your day. Set the intention that you're going to be mindful of your emotions, of your energy throughout the day. Set that intention while you're meditating. So incorporate these energetic tools, or these tools for your energetic hygiene, into the meditation, or separate from it. It doesn't have to be together. Once you have that down, you also have to pay attention to your be mindful of the food that you eat. So at the very basic level, bless your food. Make sure that the energy is cleared, because it passes from hand to hand. You don't know what the transference, or who's handling it, the transference of energy, what it's been through. Okay. So key is to bless your food and clear it of the energy that has accumulated, and ask that it be nourishing. But however, as your frequency rises, as you're doing this work, you're going to become less and less tolerant of certain foods. And so it's inevitable that your food intake, your lifestyle will be changing. So that would be something that you would have to keep in mind. So know that. And at the very least, that would be the key to do, is to bless your food. So what do you do? One aspect that I found is, what do you do when you're physically affected by the intake of emotions, of energies that you absorb every day or on a day-to-day basis? I sometimes get hit pretty hard, and I feel it in my body. Okay, so these would be the times where I'm not doing my due diligence, or something's happened that it hit me pretty hard. So what I find my go-to was a Epsom salt soak. So I would take a 20-minute soak in a bathtub filled with Epsom salt, like a cup or two, depending on what I needed. I would sometimes add essential oils or flower essences, depending. You can add herbs, depending on what it is that you need. There's many recipes out there that you can use, but be sure to have an Epsom salt base. What I found was that the Epsom salt soak bath is also a spiritual bath. It energetically cleanses you, as well as physically detoxes you, so it serves two purposes. and it does wonders. It refreshes you energetically and physically. Some other ways to, depending on the severity or the intensity of what you're feeling, you can also do aromatherapy. You can also do grounding energy. You can try with grounding. You can try with breath work. You can try with meditation. But worst case scenario, a 20-minute soak would do the trick. As a side effect of all this that you're doing, if you are looking to do spiritual work, like a service to others, this will lay out the groundwork for you. The next step after you doing all this baseline work is you'll start noticing the presence of spirit. You'll start connecting consciously with your guides. And the next step after that, you'll start connecting a little bit more consciously and in a controlled way with others, so you'll be able to do readings for others. But it doesn't have to go that far. It's up to you how you want to do it. You don't even have to do it that way. But just know that that is where it can lead to. But at the very least, this is a baseline for you so that you can discern what's yours and not yours. Because once you have this in place, you don't have that program in you that's running without your control or out of control. You're in control now. You're figuring out this is not mine, or is this mine? So you're able to discern what is yours and what is not yours. And that is the key. The key is to figure out what is yours and not yours, and then you'll be more in control of your emotions, of when you need to release, when you need to ground out, and maintenance and troubleshooting. Basically is what that comes down to. And before you know it, it's second nature, and you will know, you'll know automatically what is and what's not. However, we're only human. I know I kind of slack sometimes, and I'll forget to do my due diligence, and I would get basically, I'll trip myself up, and I have to reset and come back to basics, and also start over again and get back into the habit of it. But you are definitely more in control than you were when you first started. So that is it pretty much. So that would be your basic steps and how to, in a very quick way, to know what you're doing as far as what's yours and what's not yours. You don't have to do this basically step by step as I'm giving it to you. But like I said, this is like a common denominator amongst all the research that I've done. Take what you will from it, take what resonates, do your research. Also, incorporate, do your own routine. It whatever works for you is what will work for you. But know that you're not alone, and we are here, and we've all had our experiences. We've all had our background of trials and tribulations. We're not. I know that I have had a colorful past. Not as colorful as most, but it was more of an internal thing, and a lot of us it is typically an internal thing. But we have a lot of similarities, and they parallel, but they're not exactly the same. So with that, I leave you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I will be, well, my email is maria@yoursoulperspective.com. You can PM me. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram as well, under the same ID or call name. So, and anyway, that is it. Thank you, and have a blessed night.